welcome back, folks. This video is going to be kind of a continuation of my last one because, well, just the way things have been working out. It's kind of neat, actually, and I can't say it's been bad at all in a way, even though we're finding more problems. It's good that we're finding them because, well, you can't fix what isn't broke. So if we can find the problems, we can do something about them. At least that's what we're hoping for right now. In my last video, if you go back to that one and read the comments, there was a lady that made a comment that is actually exactly what I'm trying to prevent. A friend of hers got some bad advice from a trainer to push them through it, and they had a horse that was veering. It ended up flipping right over on them and landed on them and killed them. And that's exactly the kind of thing that can happen, and that's not an isolated incident, by the way. It happens more often than you think, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we're trying to prevent. You know, we don't want people getting hurt, and you know, right from the beginning, you've heard me talk many times. If you've been watching my videos for a while, I talk a lot about safety and preventing accidents instead of, you know, dealing with them and being dressed for them when they happen. It's kind of like the difference between being proactive and reactive. I like to be proactive. I do something about the situation before it occurs so that it doesn't occur. And then it doesn't matter whether you're wearing the protective vest and helmet and all this good stuff. Because I know lots of people, every time you mention helmets, there's going to be people that are going to say, well, gee, a helmet saved my life. No, actually, you did something that put your life in danger in the first place. It had nothing to do with the helmet. And if you were proactive, you wouldn't need the helmet. I've never owned one, never worn one. My head's still intact, sort of. Well, relatively so anyhow. Now, I'm not going to deny that helmets work. Now, that's not even a debate. You know, I've ridden motorcycles, been involved in racing and all sorts of things. And, you know, helmets are just something that, they work. They're just like the seat belts in your car. They work. I know they work. But I, you know, rather than having all the protective gear in the event of an accident, regardless of whether it's with a horse or not, my goal is to actually to prevent the accident. That's what I want to do. And so, on the note of a reactive horse that can flip over backwards, again, I got the worried girl with me here. We're working on. And as I was saying before, you know, I was going to try a whole bunch of different things, and I did. I tried all kinds of different stuff that I was hitting the saddle with and making different noises and movements and different objects that, you know. And then I was running out of things because each one improved quite quickly. But I was thinking, well, what else can I use? Well, I thought, well, the flag. I haven't used the flag in a very long time. In fact, with this particular horse, I haven't really used it at all, except a little bit in desensitizing, and I'll show you how we do that. And she doesn't really react to that. So I really wasn't expecting that the flag itself would really matter, because she's pretty good about that. You know, this thing doesn't really bother her. But it did bother her under saddle for some reason. Not sure why, but I'm glad we found that out, because, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, stuff like this is stupid. You know, it's a waste of time because nobody's going to be running around waving a flag beside your horse when you're riding, which is true. But you could be riding along on a trail ride or something, and all of a sudden there's a plastic bag stuck in the branch of a tree, and it's windy and it's flapping around. And that's the exact kind of thing that can happen. Even if you don't even go outside of the arena, if you're in, you know, competitions of some kind where they got banners and flags and all sorts of stuff, you know, going past one of those, that could, you know, if the horse isn't good with this kind of stuff, that might bother it. And, you know, like I said, that could lead to an accident, and we don't want accidents. That's what we're trying to prevent. And by exploring all possibilities, you know, and like I said, I've gone through half a dozen different things now, to try and get reactions out of her, and most of them did actually, surprisingly, although I used some rather odd things, like including a broom, which, you know, like I said, think outside the box. You know, your typical horse training tools aren't always, you know, the things that they sell in the store for training horses. A lot of things you can use for working with your horse actually have nothing to do with horses in the first place. Well, not normally anyhow, but you can use them to help your horse. And well, you can see how good she is with the flag. She doesn't care. I could throw this thing around and it doesn't bother her one little bit. The lead's just laying over my hand. She's not going anywhere. But I'm going to bring you back in just a minute. I'm going to go put a saddle on it. I'm going to show you what I found. Because again, sometimes, your problems aren't obvious and you got to actually look for them. But they're there and they're lurking in the background, and they might just pop up when you least expect them and are least prepared for them, and they can cause some very serious problems. And in the case of this particular horse, because she does have such a history of being reactive, and I have seen it many times with her, how reactive she can be, that's exactly the kind of thing we want to work on. And we're going to, like I said, no stone unturned. We're going to, check every possibility that we can. Anything that might possibly get her a little concerned or upset or make her react in any way, shape, or form, we're going to try it out. And this is where I say you got to use your imagination when you're working with horses. You can't just say, oh, well, you do it A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, it's not that simple. Sometimes you got to think outside the box, actually a lot of the time. Forget about the standard training regiments that you hear about in certain individuals' training programs. Use some things that aren't in those programs. Don't be scared to implement things that, banging on the saddle with a broom. Have you ever seen that one? I'm sure somebody's probably done it, but I did. Both ends of the broom. At first one, the handle, and then I turned around. What was really interesting is the broom end, actually she reacted more to that than she did to the handle, even though it made far less noise, but being that it was a bigger object swinging around, that seemed to bother her. And again, I'm not hitting the horse. I was hitting the saddle. I was just banging the saddle. And in the case of this flag, where we found her very reactive to it, I wasn't even touching her with it. It was just waving around beside her. I also have concluded that the horse is one-sided, and this is something else I'm going to emphasize again, I've talked about before, is whatever you do on one side, you must do on the other side as well. Horses are funny that way, and it has something to do with the way their brain works and their monocular vision. They're actually, the brain is split in half, and they're seeing two different images with their eyes most of the time. There's only a small area in front of them where they can actually see with both at the same time. And so whatever they see on one side, they've got to see that same thing on the other side. They've got to learn it on the other side as well, because there's not there's a couple different trains of thought, and I'm not a medical expert on this, but some people will say there's actually no connection between the left and right half of the brain in a horse. I don't think that's true, but others, because I've read several articles on the subject, as usual, and one of them says that, yeah, there is a connection, but it's not a really good one. It's not like ours. So, and I think that has a lot to, between the brain and the way the eyesight works and everything. The horse, whatever you're doing on one side, you can't just simply keep doing this on one side and say, okay, the horse is good. No, you got to now go do it on the other side, because guess what? They haven't seen this thing on the other side, and they haven't experienced it on the other side. So you got to go to the other side of the horse and do exactly the same thing, and guess what? All of a sudden the horse reacts to it, and you're like, well, what the heck? I've done it 100 times on this side, and you don't react to it. Why are you reacting on it? Well, it's new. They've never seen it before. This is a new thing on that side. So I got to emphasize that again. Whatever you do on one side, you must do on the other side. Whenever you're working with things like I do side passes or whatever from the ground, when I get it good on one side, and don't try, this is something, my suggestion is whenever you do something on one side, until it's really good on one side, don't even bother trying it on the other side. But if you get it really good on the one side, when you do it on the other side, although it may be like they've never done it before, because, well, from the horse's perspective, they haven't actually, but because they have experienced it on the other side, they might learn it a lot quicker. when you go to the other side. But absolutely, you must do both sides. Now, if you give me a minute, I'm going to go throw the saddle on this one and show you what I've been doing here and how it works and how she reacts to it, because it was it was actually a little bit surprising to me, because this particular flag that is actually made out of a little piece of tarp that is getting very, very well worn now. But I have, although I've used the flag very, very little, I have actually used the tarp. I've had her stand on it, walk across it, I've thrown it over and everything else, and we don't have a problem with that. But guess what? This little piece of tarp bothers her. And I'm going to go throw the saddle on her, and I'll get back to you in just a second and show you. Okay, due to the magic of video, she suddenly now has a saddle on her. Actually, I just turned the camera off for a minute. Doesn't take long to put a saddle on a horse. But as I said before, don't leave any stone unturned. Explore options, get creative. And I did, after I put the saddle on too, I also did what I said in the other video I usually do, is I just go stand on the mounting block. She'd come over to the mounting block, stand in front of it like she's supposed to for mounting. And I'd put a foot in the stirrup and then lay across the saddle and watch her head. Well, today the head really popped up. I was surprised. But that might actually be a good thing, because then there's a better chance we're going to be able to show you a reaction, because she's being reactive today. And that's kind of what we want, because she's smart and she learns fast, and she gets used to things pretty quick, like the lunge whip, both ends of it, and the broom, both ends of it, and stuff. She got really good with them. I couldn't show you how that works anymore, because she just, it wouldn't bother her. But this, she was still a little reactive to it the last time I worked with her, and today when I went to go get on, the head popped up, so she's still a little worried today. So that's good. That means I'm probably going to get a reaction, and I'm going to be able to show you what I've been doing. Now, of course, like I said, you do both sides. Now, this side, this is where I've really discovered lately just how one-sided she is, because she can actually be completely good with something on this side. And, we can wave this thing around on this side and slap the saddle with it. Well, she's a little concerned, not bad, though. The sound of it actually hitting the saddle is what bothered her. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn her around. Excuse me, dear. I want you to be able to see the other side, and I can't do that if she doesn't turn around. Although she may end up turning around quite a few more times before we're done, because that's what she did yesterday. And I wasn't even touching her with this thing, because that actually didn't seem to bother her. But if I waved it around like that, you see her head just popped up. There's a reason oh, there she goes. See? So you're going to see her going around and around. And I'm not even near her with this thing, but this is exactly what you're going to have to deal with if there's a banner, a flag, a plastic bag in a tree, whatever. And I'm going to keep doing this until she decides she doesn't need to be worried about it anymore, like that. And what's really interesting is, this is something else. See her touch her nose to it? I'm giving her control of this flag, because every time she touches it like that, it goes away. And this is going to, on that same subject, I'm going to talk about if you got a horse that has got an issue with moving objects, tractors, whatever. This is the same principle behind what I just showed you there, is exactly how you can get them to not fear those things. And I had one in particular that was pretty good about most things. But that lawn tractor, for some reason, she just had a fit. She wouldn't go near that thing. She didn't like it. If it was within 100 feet of her running, she started getting worried. And one day when I was riding her around the yard over at my friend's place, and he was using my lawn tractor to do his yard, I decided I would employ a method that I've heard of, and it does actually work quite well. And I've heard of a few guys doing it, actually recommending it, and from personal experience, it works very well. Now, see, horses are typically scared of things behind them that might be attacking them. But if they can make something else move away, they feel much more confident, because then they're in control of it. And that's exactly how it works with this flag. I'm just going to hold it over here and watch. See, she turns her nose to it, touches it with her nose, and as soon as she does, I take it away. Okay? Now, we did the exact same thing, well, sort of, same principle anyhow, with the lawn tractor. Rather than trying to encourage her to stay close to it when it was approaching her, I waited until it was going away, and then I would ride behind it at a distance. So basically, she was chasing it away. She was making the lawn tractor go away. And I did that for, I don't know, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of about a half an hour or so. And after that, I was off of her, and I was standing on the ground hanging on to the lead. The lawn tractor drove right past her about 6 feet away, and she didn't even flinch because she didn't fear it because she had dominance over it. She was in control of it. I said, that's how horses determine hierarchy in a herd, is by who moves who. Well, essentially she was higher than that lawn tractor because she made it move. And we just kept doing that. We didn't get too close to it, but we just kept making it go away. Every time it went past, we'd ride up behind it, and we made it go away. Well, she did. And that's basically what we're doing here too. And this is a principle you can use for a lot of stuff, is if I had another one, particularly nervous about bags or tarps. You can actually do this with a lot of different things, is, if you let their curiosity and she touches it, you make it go away. Now, she's in control of this thing. So she doesn't really fear this thing. But when it's flapping around beside her, that still seems to bother her. Now, I showed you just saw how one side it doesn't bother her, the other side gets her really upset. Well, that's why I emphasize you got to do both sides, because I already know the other side's good, so I'm not even going to bother with it, but she's already getting concerned. She tried turning towards it, facing it, because she doesn't want it sneaking up. And look at her, she's moving already. Goodness sakes, I haven't even moved the thing yet. But it is beside her, and it is, see, I'm just moving it around a little bit until she starts reacting. I'm not trying to freak her out, but you see her head popping up. See, she's nervous. She don't like this thing at all. And particularly on this side, and that's why I emphasize, you must do both sides. Oh, she stopped moving, good. See how much of an improvement there was? She only did like a half a turn that time. Yesterday when we did this, I think she did about 5 circles the first time. That's how fast it can progress, but obviously, she ain't done yet, and we are going to have to do this probably another 20, 30 times yet. I don't know. It's up to her. There, she just, see little things like this, what I'm doing even while I'm talking to you, this is all helping her get over her anxiety about this thing. But her reactiveness like that, is exactly the kind of thing that you got to be concerned with, and you got to be looking for it, because you can't just go, well, geez, nothing wrong with my horse. He don't mind the flag. I can wave it around. Oh, wait a minute. Actually did bother her on that side this time. That doesn't usually. That's interesting. Okay. Well, we'll do that side some more too. Not as much probably, but I just want to show you this stuff that this is what we're working on. And this, you just actually saw how fast it's working, even just in doing it twice on the one side, how much less she moved the second time. And like I said yesterday, she moved a whole lot more than that. So, it does work. It takes a while, and a lot of that depends on the horse too, because, some horses, you might only have to do it once or twice. Other ones, you might have to do it 50 times. There's no rules that say how many times or how long it takes or any of that stuff, and that's one of those things that I hear a lot of. People say, well, how long should it take to teach your horse to do such and such or whatever? There's no rules. And anybody that tries and tells you that there are, if they say it should take you, 5 minutes or 5 days or whatever, that's I can't remember who it was that said the worst thing that we can possibly do to a horse is put time constraints on the things that it does. Now, whether that's a timed event that you're making it do or the length of time that you take to teach it something. You know, it's a disservice to the animal if you put a time limit on things, because it takes as long as it takes. And, you know, that's a phrase that I think I've heard somebody else say. But that same thing has been said many times in many different ways, you know, by the good horseman. And that's really how it works, is it takes as long as it takes. You know, you can't say how many times you're going to have to do it or how long it's going to take. You know, every horse is different. Your situation is different. Maybe your timing's not as good. You know, and as a result, you have to do it a few more times. You know, but don't think you got bad timing and you can't work with horses. If your timing is even mediocre, you'll do fine. Honestly, it's kind of like driving a car. Everything you do when you're driving a car, and most of you've got a driver's license, it's all timing. You have to know how fast you can go into a corner, when you have to start braking, whether or not you have time to make that green light, or if it's turned yellow or red, you know whether to stop or go. That's all timing. It's all the same stuff. And, you know, some people are better than others, without doubt, but, you know, you don't have to be perfect, you know, and you can still do pretty good. I mean, honestly, my timing's not that great. I still do pretty good. But, you know, it's one of those things you work at and it gets better. And, you know, I'm watching the horse's movements more all the time, paying more attention to the horse so that I know when to stop waving the flag. You know, it's all timing, and it comes with practice. Nobody, you know, like I said before, nobody's born knowing anything. You got to learn this stuff. And, well, sometimes the best way you get good at things is practice. It's like you ask any boxer, basketball player, anything, what do? They practice. That's how they get better. And the same thing is true of horsemanship. You get better by practicing. And, oh, she already knows what's coming, so she's starting to move already. Oh, well. Oh, there we go. It's bothering her, but she's standing still for it this time. There you go. Look at that. 3 times. Look how much difference there is in just 3 times. I'm telling you, this stuff works. This is how you approach problems. And, you know, this is how fast they can work for you. And if you take your time, and like I said, use your imagination. And when she stops reacting to this thing, I'm going to go find something else. I'm going to find something she will react to. I don't care what it is. Maybe the next thing will be a piece of garden hose or something we can smack the saddle with. That should make a good noise. And who knows, maybe I got another little stick. Maybe I'll tie a plastic bag onto the end of it and see if that bothers her. You know, until absolutely, we want her to the point where she has learned that these things aren't something that she has to just freak out about. She might have to be cautious. I don't have a problem with a horse that is cautious of things and investigates things. Here she comes again. There. I love doing that. That's a great way to get horses over fear of things, is let them have control of it. And again, I'm killing a few birds with one stone here in this video. I'm actually covering several topics, but they're all connected. Like I said, with horsemanship, about everything's connected, and one thing leads to another. And you know, one of the biggest mistakes is, and I just had happened again too, is you know, doing things in order. You know, and I said, you know, I did a video a while back, said the biggest #1 mistake we make is getting in a hurry to get on the horse's back. And by taking my time and doing things in order and being thorough, the experience once I am on their back is going to be much, much better. I just took my little man out for a ride today. Only his second time ever being ridden outside. I've ridden him in the arena here a few times. It's been going much slower than it would at a trainer's, because I don't care. You know, it's my own horse. I can take as long as I want. Doesn't matter. And there's nothing wrong. You can never go too slow. You can only go too fast. I've said that many times. You cannot go too slow. You can only go too fast. And because I went slow with him, very slow actually, in total, he's probably only got, I don't know, maybe 4 hours on his back. You know, that's about it. And today was the second time we rode him outside in the outdoor arena, and he did so well in there again that we opened up the gate and took him out and rode him around the yard, And we actually even went so far as to see what was going to happen if we decided we want to take them on a trail ride, because that's our ultimate goal, is to ride them off the property. And we headed out the driveway, and it was entirely uneventful. It was way too easy. I was actually rather surprised by that. But I contribute that to, well, partly his personality. He's a really wonderful guy, but partly by the fact that we took our time. We didn't push him, we didn't rush anything. So when we do finally ask him to do something he's never ever done before, it's no big deal. And that's kind of the whole point of what I do and why I do things the way I do it is, we don't want a horse having a meltdown and freaking out over things. And, that's our goal with this one. That's actually our goal with every horse. And honestly, we're not doing anything different with this horse than I would with any other horse. We're just making absolute sure that all of her rudimentary foundational things are in place before, it's kind of like a human. I've talked about this before. How education works with humans is, before you can go to a trade school or any kind of post-secondary education, whether it's a university or whatever, and specialize in something, you need a grade 12. Well, I think a horse needs a grade 12 too. And if their grades 1 through 10 aren't very good, that's the groundwork, approximately. I consider grades 11 and 12 is when you finally start riding them. If grades 1 through 10 aren't good, 11 and 12 are going to be horrible. And when you finally get to university with the horse, oh boy, it's going to be a struggle. So take your time, go slow, and pay attention. Look for problems before they pop up unexpectedly and you're not prepared for them. That is kind of what we're talking about here with this one. And like I said, when she doesn't react to this thing anymore, which at the rate she's going is probably not going to be very long, we're going to find something else that she does react to. And actually, we've been having a hard time. I did some desensitizing with her, which is kind of part of my routine. And not surprisingly, not a lot of things really bothered her. She was actually very good about a lot of stuff. So that apparently just getting her to mellow out and trust me and take orders and trust my lead has really paid off. It took time to do that. Like I said, I've been working with this one now. I'm not even sure how long, maybe 8-10 months. I don't know. It's less than a year, but it's been a while. But, that might sound ridiculously long and like very slow progress, but what you also have to consider is a lot of times I'll only work with this horse once a week, and sometimes those sessions are only 15 minutes too. So, and yet still, we've managed to achieve a lot. We've accomplished a lot. She has come a long way. Even in the early videos, you could see how much more wound up she was. And that's absolutely nothing compared to what she was like in person. I can assure you, because when she was at her worst, I didn't have the camera on, trust me. I didn't have time for a camera. We were just trying to stay alive because, she would just come completely unglued, spin in circles, jump up and down, run back and forth. She almost knocked the friggin' door off the hinges one day trying to get out of here. Now when I open the door to let her out, she doesn't want to leave. So that gives you an idea how much progress we've made. But anyhow, I thought I'd just show you that one. Don't leave any stone unturned, and absolutely make sure you deal with both sides no matter what you do with the horse. And something else I actually encourage people to do, although because I've taken the time to teach her to step up to the mounting block, it's kind of hard to teach them to do it both directions. I haven't really figured out how to do that proper yet. But I can get her to come up one side, no problem. I just go stand on the mounting block, and she knows the routine. She'll go walk around the circle and come back up in front of the mounting block for me and stop exactly where I want her to. If she's not quite right, I'll just say, excuse me, take another step forward, please, and she will. But something that I also encourage people to do is mount from the other side occasionally. That way you don't create a one-sided horse. It's always a good idea to hop on from the other side once in a while too, and I try to do that every now and again. unfortunately, when I do it from the ground, because I got to hoist myself up so far. And I'm not used to doing it. I should probably do it more often. Last time I tried doing it, I almost went right over the horse because I pulled myself up a little too fast because I'm not used to doing it from that side, but it's a good idea. And if you get the opportunity to do that with your horse, absolutely every horse you should be able to mount from both sides, because a day may come where you have to. You'll end up in a situation where you got no choice but to get on from the other side because there's no room on this side. You're on some weird place that there's just no room. There's either a cliff there or a tree or something where there's no room to get on the other side, on this side, and you absolutely have to get on that other side. And you want a horse that isn't going to flip out when you do it, because believe me, some horses will if they aren't prepared on both sides. And that's one of the things that's why I'm emphasizing this, because she's pretty good on this side, but she does react a lot more on the other side. And I'm noticing that because I noticed a few times when we were doing stuff that she wasn't the same on both sides, but just lately it's been very, very obvious how one-sided she is, and that's okay. And it's probably a good thing I've been throwing the saddle on from the other side too, because that's one of the other things I do. And honestly, it's a lot more convenient and easier to actually throw the saddle on from the other side, even though it's wrong according to most people. It's just an age-old tradition. It doesn't really matter. Don't need to be doing that anymore. So there you go. Just wanted to give you another little update on what we're doing with this horse, some of the things that we're going through, and the progress you can make. And I'm really glad things went the way they did today, because it was an excellent example of just how fast and easy it is, but at the same time, things that don't bother them in one respect, you use it a little bit differently, it does bother them all of a sudden. So like I say, she's not scared of this thing, as you can see. There she goes. She touched it again, made it go away. And we're going to always do that with her. We'll do that with plastic bags. Like I said, once she's good with this thing, we'll find something else. Trust me. We're not done. And since it's obvious that, and it's not about the individual things that bother her, it's the fact that she is potentially reactive. We just don't know what to yet. And that's why we got to try as many different things as possible, because we have determined that she is in fact reactive. She's definitely not there yet, although, man, she's made some significant improvements. There's no way, even a few months ago, that she would be just standing here behind me like this, as cool as could be. Nice girl. So anyhow, go have some fun with your horse, and take your time. Make sure you do both sides. Don't leave any stones unturned, and don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry to get on the horse. It's far easier and safer to do things from the ground, and it could prevent a disaster once you get on. Have a good day.